On behalf of my colleagues, welcome to today's GNCC Lunch and Learn, generously sponsored by the YMCA of Niagara, all about the Canadian Mental Health Association's Not Myself Today program. It is a workplace mental health initiative designed to build awareness and reduce stigma and promote supportive environments through engaging tools, resources, training for employees and leaders. So you're wondering, what are you about to learn today? One of the ones is how to have effective conversations that work to destigmatize mental health and mental illness in the workplace through the physical and digital educational resources contained within the Not Myself Today program. We will show an online portal walkthrough for employees, as well as an e-learning series for managers. My name is Mishka Balsam, and I will be your host today. But before we get started, if you wish to enable live transcript, you can find that option on your Zoom screen. If you have difficulty locating it, please utilize the chat function, and one of my colleagues will get back to you and lead you through it. Please know that this session is recorded and will be made available to all participants afterwards. But before we begin, I want to highlight our sponsor. Our Lunch and Learn is proudly sponsored by YMCA Employment and Immigrant Services of Niagara, a steadfast partner in our series. Their support is invaluable, offering employment programs that assist job seekers at all levels and providing extensive employment services for employers. And now, with us today is Kelly Jones, the program manager at the YMCA of Niagara, and I'm passing it over to you, Kelly.
All right. Thank you, Mishka. I appreciate the partnership with the GNCC. And of course, we have a phenomenal relationship with CMHA, who's a great resource for our employers that we offer services for here in Niagara and beyond. And of course, for our clients. You know, when we look at mental health, it's a big conversation right now. And I think that understanding resources that are available across Niagara, especially with CMHA, it's in a way to more empower our employees or your employees, and to make sure that they have strong mental health, because that helps with productivity and avoid absenteeism and so on. So a lot of people think, oh, mental health, that's going to cut down on the amount of work I can do, but actually it's going to be able to set your employees up for more success. And understanding the way you set up the environment and how you structure even job descriptions is all part of mental health. And I think we're looking forward to using a lot of these practical inputs. I know that from the YMCA of Niagara, we've done a lot of reflection on mental health and how to deliver that for our own employees. And of course, with the employers that we serve here in Niagara with our free services in recruitment, training, and development. So I look forward to CMHA. I appreciate the GNCC's relationship, and looking forward to learning how we can build our resiliency and our awareness on mental health. Thank you.
Kelly, thank you so very much to you and to the YMCA for all that you do for employers and employees and job seekers in Niagara. It is really critical, a critical resource, and we really do appreciate your partnership on this very important topic. And on the topic, it is my great honor actually to introduce you to our expert speaker, Ryan Cunningham, a national business development representative with CMHA on the national level. In his experience working with the Not Myself Today team, they have successfully engaged multiple small and large brand name organizations across Canada in deploying the program to their workforces. Some industry verticals include healthcare, public service, engineering and utilities, adult beverage, professional sports, arts and entertainment, and more. And as you can see, it seems to be a tool that is applicable to all sectors. Ryan and his team are dedicated to ensuring a safe and supportive working environment for all Canadians in the workforce. And Ryan, on behalf of my colleagues and our membership, thank you so very much for all that you do for Canadians when it comes to their mental well-being as well, and especially in the workplace. Today's format is about a 35-minute presentation. Please feel free during the presentation to utilize the chat function and ask any questions that you would like to ask, because we will allow for about, and probably have about 15 to 20 minutes towards the end of it to get to the Q&A session. And as always, we're really committed to getting to all the questions that you have, and we're looking forward to responding to them. So on that note, thank you so very much to all of our participants today for being with us. And Ryan, I'm passing it over to you.
Thank you very much, Mishka, and thank you everyone for joining me today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we can get started and dive right into what Not Myself Today is all about, as well as a little bit of history about the Canadian Mental Health Association overall. For those of you that are new to the organization and new to what we do here, we have a presence in over 330 communities across Canada, helping people directly providing advocacy and resources that prevent mental health problems and illnesses, support recovery and resilience, and enable all Canadians to flourish and thrive. And we've been doing this for over the last century across Canada from coast to coast. Specifically with the Not Myself Today program. It is CMHA National's flagship workplace mental health program, and it's an awareness and capacity building program that helps break down stigma and start the conversation around mental health in your workplace. It is an annual subscription-based program, and it provides a proactive and preventative approach to mental health. Now, when I'm referring to this resource as a proactive resource, this is meant to be used in conjunction with your business's existing resources, whether that's an EAP or benefits package, anything along those lines. This is meant to sort of highlight those resources that you already have in place and drive usage and engagement out of those resources by providing people proactive resources in doing so. The program, as everyone has mentioned, is designed to build awareness and reduce stigma. So, especially with the kinds of conversations that we've seen across the board in industries with relation to mental health, it's just something that cannot be avoided anymore. And it's not even considering the fact that other things that happen on and off the job are going to impact our productivity, our ability to show up to work, all of those things overall. So, really prioritizing how to approach mental health from a very basic standpoint is all what Not Myself Today is really about. And we do that by providing approachable physical and digital resources that we're going to explore today in the form of some group-based activities, individualized training and activities, resources and webinars as well. And in case you want to have a more creative approach with Not Myself Today overall, you can sort of leave the overall resources as sort of a resource library for staff to click around on and explore on their own time, or you can take a more organization-led approach with a deployment strategy, a lesson plan, and we're going to take a look at what those look like all today. And of course, you'll be connected to the wider CMHA network, including CMHA Niagara, which offers some fantastic services that I did want to mention here, like our crisis outreach and support team, mobile crisis rapid response team, safe beds, urgent support and walk-in counseling, group counseling, employment services, volunteer and training programs, and more. So please feel free to check out CMHA Niagara specifically after this presentation. So what's contained within the overall package of Not Myself Today? Well, I would consider it more so threefold. So we have our individualized managers e-learning training series and resource library that's going to cover about 5 topics that you're seeing here. So we have Mental Health 101, stress management and resilience building, managing workloads and burnout, supporting employee mental health, and fostering a positive workplace culture. This is also to be used in conjunction with a staff Not Myself Today portal that is browser-based. There's no app or anything to install. It can be accessed from any device, whether mobile or desktop, straight from a standard web browser. And then also included in that annual subscription fee is a physical toolkit. So we do our best to encourage participation for any organization, regardless of, for example, it's a manufacturing facility or if it's an office-based environment. Anyone can participate in the program, regardless of what their job function and responsibilities include. And as you can see here, we have our learning modules that are available to staff, as well as some mood buttons like the background you see behind me, some posters, stickers, kindness cards, all the resources you necessarily need to operate the program long-term overall for your organization specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase now what the manager's e-learning training looks like overall. So I'm going to switch screens here. So right now, this is on our own LMS platform. We do have the capabilities to do LMS integration in case you do have that in place for your organization. That is something that we can have a conversation about and discuss on a case-by-case basis. However, I did want to let you know as well that it's about 4 hours of training that is self-assigned. So the idea here is that you can gain access to the resources and then sort of assign that to your team leads accordingly. So say, for example, here, you sign up for Not Myself today, you have this training available for your staff, for your people leaders, and you say to them, all right, everyone, we have the new training available here. I want to make sure that Mental Health 101 is completed within the next 2 months. That's absolutely something you can do, and managers can feel free to go at this at their own pace. The platform will always save their place from where they left off as they're moving through the activities they're in. And I should also mention too that at the end of each module, you are presented with a certificate of completion, so you can show that your progress has been tenfold and moving forward throughout the program's content as well. So I wanted to showcase examples of 2 of the activities and modules that we have here. So I'm going to start with stress management and resilience building. I know that was one of our preliminary questions that we're going to address later. So I did want to highlight this as well, specifically for managers and how we're going to prioritize managers' overall health and well-being so they can be more supportive for themselves and the people that they lead. So let's discuss what addressing stress is, and I'm going to showcase about a minute or so of this stress video about talking about what stress can be and what it looks like here. So, as you can see, here's our animation for what is stress.
What is stress? Stress can be difficult to define. We all have different thresholds of what we consider stressful. Not every negative event leads to stress, and positive events are not always completely stress-free. But regardless of this, we can define stress as a response that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. This is your body's physical and mental response to any demand that exceeds the resources we have to deal with those demands. While stress is typically referred to as a negative, some levels of stress can be a good thing. A certain amount of stress can help keep us engaged, give us adrenaline, put pressure on us to improve, and motivate us to complete tasks. This optimum level of stress is referred to as eustress. Eustress can have great benefits in terms of our mental health. It gives us a temporary boost to complete stressful, but ultimately exciting tasks without feeling overwhelmed.
So that's an example of covering what is stress overall. The later part of the module discusses signs of stress, so the feelings that may exhibit, the behaviors that might include, as well as our ways of thinking with regards to how stress affects us as related to in the later parts of the video. Also discussing how to respond to stress. So we have it classified here as the 4 A's of stress management as outlined by the University of Chicago. So accept the things you can't change. Is the stressor that you provided or thinking about something that you cannot change? Are you able to consider accepting it and talking about it with someone you trust? Avoiding minor unnecessary stress. Is the stressor that you're experiencing ultimately necessary? Is it a minor stress that doesn't significantly impact your physical or psychological health and safety or put you at risk of harm? Can you consider how empowering it might feel to say no to something that doesn't serve you in some way? And there's always a lot of power in saying no. Alter the external situation. Is your environment making the stressor you're experiencing worse or better? Consider what changes you could make to your daily routines to reduce your overall stress levels. Adapt your internal thought process as well. So is there an opportunity to adapt your mindset with respect to the stressor that you're experiencing? So consider how you can adapt your thinking about the situation to reduce stress overall. And then the next portion of the module will talk about resilience and everything along those lines as well. So now I wanted to showcase what supporting employee mental health looks like. We've taken care of ourselves, or we're starting to take care of ourselves as people leaders. How can we assist a staff member that might come to us or is approaching a sort of crisis point? So all of the modules themselves have their own mixture of learning styles. So as you saw there, there's a mixture of animations, some light reading. There's also some quizzes as well. But specifically with supporting employee mental health, this has one of my personal favorite activities here in that it walks you through a workplace simulation, an interactive workplace simulation through a conversation that you might have with a colleague who might be struggling and starting to disconnect from their work overall. So once this loads here, we're going to dive into our workplace simulation and take a look at how we would respond to this situation here. So supporting employee mental health. Nima, a staff member who's been part of your team for over 5 years, has become less socially interactive over the past few months. He started to disengage, he hasn't been communicating with you as much, and isn't even participating in team meetings as often as usual. Today, during your coffee break at the office, you observe an interaction between Nima and 2 colleagues.
So should we go on our walk now?
Yeah, I think it's time.
Hey, do you want to join us for our walk?
No, I think I'm gonna stick around.
Okay.
So what are your plans for the weekend?
Let's actually plan on going to the movies.
So, in all honesty, that's a pretty innocuous interaction, right? Something we wouldn't normally pay attention to. But in this case, you've just observed Nima refuse an invitation to join his colleagues on a walk. Could what you just observed be cause for concern? I would say yes. As an isolated incident, something like this wouldn't be cause for concern, but in this case, however, you have noticed that Nima, usually outgoing, has become less socially interactive. He also hasn't been communicating with you as frequently and isn't participating in team meetings as often as usual. So as a manager, recognizing that Nima's behavior has changed over the past few months and taking into account what you just observed, what would you like to do? Leave it alone? It's none of my business. It could be a one-off. I don't want to pry on any personal details. I may be overstepping here. Maybe I should just leave it alone. To be honest with you, that is if that is your line of thinking, that is the sole reason why we are absolute major proponents of this. We've done a lot of research into this topic with many organizations, and we identified that managers specifically don't necessarily feel comfortable speaking to someone with regards to this. We're not asking anyone to be a social worker or a therapist, and what that really reflects from a policy standpoint is that managers might not know the right things to say, so they might opt out to say nothing at all. What that does is really erode trust between that employee and that manager. So as a result here, I'm going to show you what the incorrect answer would be in this example here. So to leave it alone, none of my business. That is incorrect. As a manager, you have a responsibility to notice and respond to any changes in an employee's usual behaviors in the workplace. So it is time to speak to Nima.
Hi, Nima.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. Nothing to be worried about, but do you have some time for a quick chat in my office?
Sure. Is everything okay?
Absolutely. There's nothing to be concerned about. I just want to check in on how you're doing.
So you've intervened, you've noticed his behavior. So now the next portion of the training itself will walk you through what that conversation looks like. So how to have that conversation in a safe and supportive way, not necessarily trying to diagnose or even sort of pinpoint what someone's mental illness might be, just creating an open environment for someone to share how they're feeling in an honest setting. And also, all throughout the training, it'll always remind you to harken back to your internal policies and follow your internal policies accordingly. So as a result here, what an accommodation might look like. What that looks like, I'm not too sure what anyone's internal policies might be, but it could be something along the lines, for example, here, maybe more flexible working hours, maybe looking at balancing more of a workload in case there is a stressor that is absolutely impeding someone's productivity and someone's availability at work overall from a mental health standpoint. And in the most extreme cases too, if someone needs to take a leave of absence due to stress, what does that return to work process look like? So there's also a learning library that we've included as part of this that we are updating on a regular basis. And the idea here is that say you're a manager and someone comes up to you because they're experiencing burnout. You're unsure of what to say or unsure possibly what burnout is. So all I would do is just go into the content library, search burnout, and then I have some resources right at my disposal so I can have a more effective conversation with that staff member. So I've gone through the training myself, all of the modules included, and during our beta testing and with our current clients as well over the past few months, a lot of the feedback that we've received has been that the conversations and the lessons that are taught here are very much relevant to the job, regardless of what someone's industry or sector might be. These are conversations that are occurring in real time, and people feel way more equipped to handle them and feel way more educated in how they can assist people from a policy, legality, and even personal standpoint. We always want to help help our staff members. We always want to be as accommodating as possible. This is a resource that's going to help your people leaders absolutely do that. And in my personal experience, and I might be a little biased here, but I would personally say that this is a resource that I think that should be mandatory at any organization. I think the training is relevant for new managers as well as managers that have been in a role for years on end. So we're very excited to include this as part of the overall package of Not Myself Today for your managers specifically, and it's something that you could assign on day one of your subscription start date. So the next thing I'm going to go over here would be our staff portal. So our portal for all employees as well. So this is the Not Myself Today dashboard. And I'm just going to review this as from a high level, just to give you an example of what some of the resources look like here today. So right from the top, the program is available in English and French. So all of the resources can be downloaded or accessed in French, and same thing with the manager's training as well. We have separate French videos that are able to be viewed as well, including some translations therein. So right at the top of the screen here, how are you feeling today? This is our digital mood button. So I can check in with myself on a daily basis just to say how I'm feeling. It's as simple as that. And we have a range of positive and negative emotions here. And we have the negative emotions listed, not to necessarily encourage someone to click this all the time, but to validate how we're feeling on that day. If you're having a good day, if you're having a bad day, we all have separate days, right? We all have our days where we're feeling stressed or feeling overwhelmed or even feeling hopeful. We really want to encourage people to utilize the platform openly and honestly, because every input on this platform is kept anonymous. There is no possible way to see who exactly is saying what, and that is by design. So I would encourage people to be as honest and transparent with themselves as possible. So if someone is saying that they are feeling overwhelmed today, the idea is that they've said it out loud, they've done an action that sort of validates how they're feeling. They can take a deep breath and say, okay, now where can I go from here? Today, personally, I'm feeling pretty upbeat. Scrolling a bit further down here, what the digital mood button does here is that it populates on the company mood wall. So I could see, or anyone can see, from a broad organizational perspective, how others are feeling across the entire organization completely anonymously. So the idea here is that if someone's having a bad day and they say so, they can see that others might be feeling a similar way. So right there, even at their workplace, they know they're not alone. They don't have to go through this in silence. They don't have to feel like they're a burden. Others are feeling a similar way too, and we're building that solidarity amongst everyone here at our organization to build a more supportive and safer working environment. You can also use this as a personal mood tracker. So if I was responsible for sharing this resource and making sure that my staff were engaged with this, what I would do is encourage staff to do their daily check-in with themselves. And if they're noticing, for example, that their personal mood log, the bubbles here are looking more on the negative side of things, just as a reminder for staff, we do have our EAP in place. We have resources available to you to go speak to a mental health professional. We also have an open door policy here. We don't want you to feel like this is something you can't talk about. We are here to support you. So already you're using these resources in conjunction with your existing policies and your existing resources that you have for staff to support them at their job respectively. So in terms of the learning modules for staff, we have them all laid out here, and they can be toggled on and off based on organizational preference. I'm going to showcase addressing stress from the staff perspective, so you can see how the content aligns with that stress management and resilience building that we looked at earlier. So with addressing stress, it discusses positive and negative stress. We learned what positive stress is. It's called eustress. So again, that's referring to things like being focused, being motivated, achieving that flow state at work. But when we're commonly associating or talking about stress, we're speaking to it in a more negative lens. We're feeling overwhelmed, we're feeling frustrated, we're feeling maybe even agitated or angry, and stress affects our bodies differently, as that video explains. So I know for myself, for example, I know I'm stressed when I clench my jaw or my shoulders tense. For others, they may bite their nails, they might chew their lip, they might fidget at their desk, or even get up and pace. Identifying how your body is responding to stress is one of the first steps to take in order to address stress more appropriately and how it affects you on a regular basis. So we have a stress less quiz here, and it's an individual activity that someone can do. It's a 10-question quiz, will take you about a minute or so to complete. give you a score based on your responses, and then provide you with an optional worksheet in case you want to go more in depth as to the root cause of that stress, whether it's on the job, off the job, a combination of the two. Really helping someone dissect and really get to the bottom of what's causing them stress is really a great first step to take in order to address stress more effectively from a personal lens. There's also our de-stress dice. This is something in our physical toolkit that we have, and it's a simple little wellness activity you could leave in a lunchroom, a break room, and this is just how it works. Someone would roll the dice, and as a way here, it'd be a wellness reminder to check in with yourself throughout the day. So in this case here, watch a funny video, tell a joke, use the Mission Possible, or use the kindness cards that are contained within the physical toolkit, just as a way to prioritize yourself and really take stock and take inventory and reflect on how you're feeling throughout the day. Excuse me. And there's also more worksheets and resources here, something you could do as a team. You could watch one of the videos and have a discussion as a group, just to get everyone talking about mental health and keeping those resources on the front burner overall. There's tips to de-stress, worksheets, building resilience. There's mindful meditation, so in case you had an extended lunch break or something where you didn't have much going on, you can absolutely access this at any time. And then you can actually track your stress levels over time if you're doing the quiz on a monthly basis. As you can see from here, my stress levels have fluctuated, especially since the holidays just passed. That was a pretty stressful time, and things have started to get a little bit more organized and a little less stressful for me. We also update content on a regular basis. We do quarterly webinars covering different topics about mental health, and that's always archived and updated within the platform as well. We just launched How to Manage Your Winter Blues. We just had Blue Monday last week, so we thought the information was extremely topical for that, and so these resources can be accessed by anyone here. So the last thing I'm going to showcase on the portal itself would be our reporting tools. So all this information is great. How can I use this to sort of see if people are engaged with the platform, see what people are focused on? So as I mentioned, all the inputs are anonymous, confidential, nothing is tracked, no information is being captured by any means or any capacity. All anyone would have to do when creating an account with Not Myself Today is create a username and password, and that's it. And from then they'd be able to access the platform. So what you can see from an organizational lens, or from a high-level overview, are sessions. So how many logins are occurring at one time on the Not Myself Today platform, how long those login sessions tend to last on average, as well as how many pages are being clicked on per login session as well. You could also track engagement based on each of the learning modules themselves. So, for example, let's say you're leaving the portal here as a resource library for staff to access at any time throughout the day or throughout the work week. An idea here is that you can see which learning modules are being engaged with the most. So in this example here, addressing stress seems to be the most popular out of the modules that we're clicking on here. So what I might do is let my managers know, or take inventory of this to say, okay, you know what, maybe I should go into, or instruct my people leaders or wellness committee, what have you, to go into addressing stress, find some resources that they believe are relevant, and then share that with those team members accordingly, so you are being topical with what your staff are engaged with the most. So all of these data points can be downloaded and included in internal memos, slide decks, presentations, anything you're doing to capture health and wellness from an analytical perspective. This is all available to you. So one of the last things I did want to discuss is that I mentioned at the top of the presentation here is that there is a more organization-led, structured approach that you can take with Not Myself Today if that is something that you'd like to do. So as an example here, we have our whoops, that's the wrong resource that we're going to take a look at here. I wanted to showcase our 10-week lesson plan. So you can hypothetically go through the modules in a structured timelined approach. However, I would see this 10-week lesson plan and take that with a grain of salt. Everyone has different deadlines. Everyone has different availabilities. This is not an industry-specific solution. This is designed for you to be as flexible and creative with the resources as possible. So I would see this as a 10-step lesson plan as I'm moving through the content that's contained within each of the learning modules. So in this example here, watch video Mental Health and Mental Illness 101. Encourage employees to take the Fact of the Matter quiz as homework to develop a baseline of their knowledge. So I'm going to go to the Learning the Basics learning module. I'm going to click on Get Started. There's that fact of the matter quiz. Again, another 10-question quiz just to assess your baseline mental health knowledge. There's that video as well. So the idea is that you're going to watch that as a group, have a discussion afterwards, and maybe before the meeting's adjourned, rather than assigning more work or anything along those lines, have people sort of take the quiz before the meeting is adjourned on their personal device. So that's pretty much it in terms of how long an activity might take. So on average, you're looking at probably about depending if you're following that structured if you're following that 10-week lesson plan, you're talking maybe about 20 minutes a week on average, maybe more, maybe less, with regards to the activities that people would be engaged with the most. We also have a quick start guide to getting started with Not Myself Today overall. So in case you are, wondering, where do I start? This is a lot of information. I want to take a more structured-led approach. What can we do? So something that I would do is the date that I gain access, I would encourage my team or encourage my wellness committee, for example, to dive in on the portal, take a look around at the materials, and then we'll reconvene in about a week or so to start planning our own journey, figuring out which module we want to start with based on our organizational needs, and then work to get everybody on board by hosting a kickoff event, just as an example. Whether you're doing a lunch and learn, whether you're inviting a guest speaker to talk about mental health, whether you're doing something, whether we are doing an email blast, anything along those lines, and anything you want to do to kickstart the initiative and get the conversation going, we give you those tips for success, and we also don't leave you in the dark as well. Throughout the length of your subscription, you have access to an account manager for any questions related to the program overall, or deployment or implementation of the platform in and of itself. I did want to cover one activity here just as from a group-based perspective, and this is our mood button activity. For some of you that may have been to the Business After Fives and you've seen these buttons sort of around, if I've spoken to you, this is just an example of how the activities can work. It is one of our most popular features of the program, is to just tack this on to the starter end of a meeting, for example, just as a check-in to say to everyone, okay, let's just check in with ourselves to say how we're feeling today. And people could choose to be as candid or not as they'd like to be with respect to that. But the idea here is that we're building empathy through storytelling without necessarily saying that out loud, and really establishing that it's all about perspective at the end of the day. So say, for example, here, someone might be saying, oh, I'm feeling overwhelmed today because, I'm working on a pretty busy project here and the deadline's coming up, but also I'm dealing with the fact that my child is getting into fights at school. That's weighing heavy on me today. Obviously, when you hear that, you're going to be more receptive to what that person might be going through and sort of understand where they might be coming from. In a completely different perspective, say someone's on a local sports team, for example, they're in a beer league, what have you, something along those lines. Maybe they're in the playoffs for that team, and the night before they lost their playoff game, so they're out for the season. So that person's going to be down today. They're going to be feeling pretty down on themselves. But again, both of those scenarios are valid in their own respect, and it's going to affect us differently. And in my personal experience of facilitating some of these activities, I actually found that people were more engaged with each other afterwards. There was a nice hum in the room afterwards. People were talking more, getting more connected with each other, because at the end of the day, yes, we are part of a workforce here, but we are all human beings, and we all have our mental health just like we have our physical health. Therefore, it doesn't stop at work. It should be something that we support at work to make sure at the end of the day, we're as productive as we can be, and we can show up as ourselves in an open, honest, safe, and vulnerable environment. So that pretty much covers the bulk of the presentation here. So I'm going to pass it back to Mishka, and we can go over some more questions here. Thank you very much, everyone.
Ryan, thank you so very much for this really in-depth actually introduction to the program. I think it's been a really great overview, and likely maybe has answered some of the questions that have come forward.
I believe so.
I hope so too. And for those of you who have actually joined us in our Business After Five event, Ryan is a very familiar face there, and some of the buttons you might have also seen too that he has referred to. But I really want to get to the question because there's a high number that has come in, and I'm going to start out with one particular topic, and it's really looking at where some of our participants are asking about the impact it has created and the engagement within the organization. So one of the questions was, what are some of the measurable outcomes organizations have reported after implementing the Not Myself Today program? If you can refer to that or give us a sense of it, so that it gives us a better sense of the success and the impact it has on employees, but also on management at the same time.
Absolutely. So I have taken these questions into account, and I do have some information that I'm going to further discuss as we're moving through things here. So specifically referring to impact and engagement, I'm just going to speak a little bit about the history of Not Myself Today. We really started in about 2016, 2017 with that physical toolkit, and we've really worked since that time to expand the program out to include that Not Myself Today portal and now that manager's training. Over that course of time, we've seen over 1,000 organizations across Canada participate in the program, and all-encompassing, over 1 million employees have participated in the program overall. Our biggest form of engagement that we get from our clients all the time is that, oh, I did this activity, or I did Not Myself Today at my previous organization, I want to bring it here. And what we've seen across the board here is that all of these numbers are impressive in their own right for sure, but 98% agree that it prompted conversation and dialogue about mental health in the workplace. So the idea here is that if someone who may feel that stigma, may not reach out to someone if they are experiencing a mental health crisis, through the activity say to themselves, hey, you know what? I really haven't been feeling like myself. What does my employer have in place in terms of EAP or in terms of resources that I can utilize to go speak to a mental health professional? I think that the program has definitely done its due diligence as well. We do have a customer satisfaction report that is available through a more one-on-one conversation as well that speaks to more the industry breakdowns, what information is captured as well. But I also did want to highlight a couple success stories here from the Nature Conservancy of Canada as well as Wasserman about their experience with the program overall. So Not Myself Today, specifically with the Nature Conservancy of Canada, an organization out in BC, it's aided them in evolving their culture within their team, but also allowing them to engage with their colleagues across the country in a positive, considerate, and forward-thinking way. So during their mental health minute activities, that internally they incorporate a lot of the Not Myself Today content. And more recently, they've engaged their National Health and Safety Committee to showcase Not Myself Today. And the feedback we've received from that program is that they are optimistic that the committee recognizes its resourcefulness and are actively working towards potential implementation Canada-wide. With Wasserman, they've been a member of ours since 2020, so since the pandemic pretty much, and they've seen positive shifts in their workplace culture by reducing stigma associated with discussing mental health in the workplace. They become that 98%. The decision to prioritize mental health training and awareness with Not Myself Today has been a game changer for them, and it's a core part of their belief system and genuine investment in their most important asset, which is their people. By having Not Myself Today in place, you're prioritizing the overall health and well-being of staff overall. And this is just a highlight of what other clients are saying as well. And I hope that helps answer the question, Mishka.
Thank you so very much. This is really insightful, and congratulations to you and your team to actually getting these type of results and tapping into understanding the impact it has within the organizations. It's greatly appreciated. One of the wonderful, really good question that has come forward is from Linda, and they're asking, if we were to get this program, would a CMHA staff person do an introduction for their staff? So they really specifically are asking, what is your role in introducing it to their organization? And if you want to stop sharing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I can speak to that absolutely. So that is something that we can offer. It's normally the program is normally designed to be a company-led initiative, an internally led initiative. However, if you're adamant about having one of my team members sort of come in and give a kickoff session or anything like that, that is something that we can accommodate. It would just be more so on a case-by-case basis. But the program, honestly, there's a lot of resources there where once you sink your teeth into it, rather, you can really see that the program sort of runs itself. But the short answer to that question is yes, that is an option. But it's something that is done on a case-by-case basis.
Excellent. Related question actually is coming forward from another participant, and they're asking, saying, Ryan, you mentioned that CMHA has a presence in 330 community. Is there a CMHA presence in Naga? And if so, where? And can you provide some contact information, please? And I think that's a very valuable
I agree with that.
question.
Sure. So yes, specifically, this program is from the CMHA National Office. We are a federation. We are a federation of different branches as well. But I did want to take some time to highlight CMHA Niagara because I know that this is the GNCC. So let me just drop that information and that contact information in the chat so people can reach out to their website and take a look at their program specifically. So I'm going to do that right now.
Thank you so very much. I think it's greatly appreciated, and I think it also creates a greater and broader awareness of everything that CMHA actually is offering to Niagara in Niagara.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, there is also a question here. Two actually individuals has said, is there a cost attached to it, and or is the resource for free? And I think you touched base on it just early on, but I think like trying to get a sense, what am I looking at? What is the investment to me as an organization?
So it is an annual subscription-based program. So there is a cost element that is associated with the program overall, and it is based around the total number of employees and managers that you have, and pricing is provided in a sort of case-by-case basis. So if that is information that you're looking for because you're interested in the program, you can reach out to me. I know my contact information will be shared, I'm guessing, after the presentation. You can get in touch with me. We can also have a conversation by email or even at the next Business After 5, just to get more of a sort of consultative approach with what you're looking for with respect to Not Myself Today.
Excellent. Another question related to cost, and it's understandable. We're not non-profit, and Niagara has, I think, 9% of all registered organizations are non-profits or charities. Is there a special rate for non-profits or charities?
Yes, absolutely there is. And again, that is on a case-by-case basis. So that's something that can be discussed in a consultative fashion.
Excellent. The question also that has been asked is about the customization and scalability of the program. How customizable is Not Myself Today program for different workplace environments, such like a small business that might only have 3 employees versus a larger corporation who's looking at 450 employees?
Right. So that's a very good question. So like I mentioned during the presentation as well, it's a flexible, non-industry specific program that addresses the universal need for mental health support. So the program can be tailored to your organization's needs specifically, whether through a structured approach by using that 10-week lesson plan that we looked at, using that rollout guide to make a more sort of focused approach to it, or you could treat the Not Myself Today portal as a resource library for staff to access independently via the Not Myself Today portal. You are going to have people that are more engaged with some of those resources that bring things that they find to their people leaders to say, hey, I found this in addressing stress, or I found, excuse me, found this resource in learning the basics. Can we add this to our next team huddle? Can we add this to our next meeting here? So it's very different. And we've seen creative strategies across the board. We've seen people create their own, they've had their own lunch and learns, they've hosted kickoff events with respect to this, but the also deploying the manager's e-learning training on day 1 to prioritize throughout the year also ensures engagement at all levels for your organization. So we've seen success across all different types of sectors and all different types of industries. We work with businesses that are under 50 people all the way up to 15,000 and more. So everyone has their own catered approach of what they'd like to see with this. And I hope that helps answer the question.
Yeah, I think it was an excellent answer to it, and appreciate it. There's also the question here is, what tips might you offer to an employer to help bust stigma and bias observed about mental health among team members? It still exists. I think people have had different experiences and different values, but what would you offer that would allow that?
So that's a very important question. And I think that I'm going to harken back to the main goals and achievements of what Not Myself Today is. So the goals of Not Myself Today are building greater awareness and understanding of mental health. So from an awareness standpoint, increased awareness makes it easier for individuals to find and access the help that they need. And increased awareness helps in recognizing early signs of mental health issues, which can lead to earlier diagnosis and intervention. Early treatment often results in better outcomes. When it comes to stigma, when stigma is reduced, individuals are more likely to adhere to treatment plans and continue with therapy or medication, leading to better recovery of management and management of mental health concerns, and fostering a safe and supportive working culture. A safe and supportive working environment contributes to employees' overall mental and physical health. When employees feel valued and supported, their stress levels decrease, leading to better mental health and fewer physical health problems. And this really comes at all levels, but we've also seen in post-pandemic, a lot of employees want their employers to take this seriously. They want a program like this. They want to see more than just an EAP or a wellness stipend, because workers are expecting their organizations now to challenge societal norms and support their holistic health and be more future oriented than ever before. And what that means is shifting towards a focus on human sustainability. So by carving out some time to just have a conversation and be more open and build an environment where people can have a more effective discussion and navigate those concerns in a safe and effective way, you're going to see the results, and you're going to see that energy shift throughout your organization overall.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Actually, it's really appreciated. There's also the question, because in some cases, some of our participants are employees who are looking at it. Others are looking at it through probably more from a leadership perspective, from a management perspective. How can senior leaders ensure the conversations about mental health becomes an integral part of a workplace culture rather than a one-time initiative? And rather than the initiative with the one employee, I might have it, but overall as a team, I don't have it.
Right. And I would say there's multiple answers to that question as well. So, like I mentioned, prioritizing overall health and wellness overall comes from a management standpoint, and also from a employee standpoint as well, is really understanding that at the end of the day, there's going to be factors that affect your day-to-day responsibilities, and there's going to be factors that you may not even consider that is affecting your overall day-to-day function, whether it's on the job stress or off the job stress, or showing that you're prioritizing yourself and utilizing those resources to sort of prioritize that is absolutely crucial. I know I can speak from personal experience. When I have my bad days, I know which resources on the platform to utilize, because I know that they help me sort of unpack how I'm feeling and figure out where to go from there. And what we've seen so far, especially when managers get involved, is we've seen a 28% reduction of work-related sick leave, a 27% reduction in mental health disability duration, a 20% reduction on mental health disability related cost as well, in terms of also increasing engagement and productivity and higher retention and attraction. So what that really means is if you're prioritizing mental health, you're prioritizing the overall workforce, and that's going to ultimately lead to better results overall.
Excellent. There's another question that has come forward. You touched on it during your presentation, and that has really to do with resiliency training when it comes to mental health. And in this particular one, it is something that we see more often, and hear more often, that individuals, if it's employees, colleagues, are dealing with more difficult people and more difficult situations. What does this particular program how does it train or enable or support individuals to dealing with that level of resiliency training when it comes to dealing with more challenging, not just situations, but also individuals?
That's a very good question. And I think referring back to that manager's e-learning training in terms of how to navigate those conversations safely and effectively, but also I did want to highlight that we provide some facilitation tips when you are having those discussions, whether in a group-based setting or an individual setting. These can all be applied here. So especially in a situation where someone is being more negative or cynical about mental health overall, we'll address that pretty clearly. But for discussion guidelines, making sure that you're implementing this for your organization, to say, making sure that I'm listening actively to others, avoiding sidebar conversations, being respectful with relating to someone's lived experience as well. But specifically when we're talking about addressing negativity or cynicism, if someone is saying, oh, this is a stupid initiative, this is dumb, or anything along those lines, rather than being combative against that person, we want to be more constructive with how we respond to them. We want to validate how that person is feeling and then work towards finding some common ground and work towards consensus. So an example of a response like that would say, okay, I can understand how you might be feeling that way, but your voice also matters just as much as the next person. So what do you think we can do differently? And what do you think we can do to work towards finding some common ground here so that way your opinion's heard just as much as the next person. So you're already validating how that person is feeling and working towards finding that common ground. So this is also included as part of the overall content.
Ryan, whenever we put a program forward, we feel the same. We always look at it and saying, this is all that it does right now, but look at where it could be in 3 years from now. Or here are some of the things that we're working on behind the scenes that might even improve it. So when you look at your program, and you likely look at it with more critical eyes than the people who've signed up for it or subscribers of it, but when you look at it and saying, like, what is next for Not Myself Today program? Are there any new features or initiatives being developed to further support businesses down the road? Maybe even things you're planning to launch this year or in the upcoming year?
So a very good question. I will say that the manager's e-learning training did get launched at the end of last year. So in terms of our content that's upcoming for this year, we have some webinars planned and we're adding resources throughout the year. Our ongoing updates are guided by best practices, research, and client feedback to provide valuable learning opportunities overall. I know there are some things in the works right now that I can't really get too much into just because we're in the very early stages of those aspects, but content is coming throughout the year in the form of webinars and other resources that will be available to Not Myself Today clients.
Yeah. What is the number one kind of hesitancy barrier that you have experienced when you talk to leaders of organizations, managers of organizations who might feel hesitant about introducing this mental health initiative? What is kind of the number one barrier? Because I think what would help us is understanding how to maybe better and how to overcome it, how to be more skilled in introducing it to make sure that everyone is getting the most out of this program.
I think where we see the most success from this program is that senior leadership buy-in. We really want to see our leaders actively participating in these discussions, not just leaving it as another task for somebody else to do. Because what we see from an employee standpoint is that we see our leaders actively participating in being open, honest, vulnerable, and transparent with their own mental health. And what that does is creates that organizational change through that ripple effect. If we see our leaders doing that, we are automatically going to be encouraged to do the same. So the main thing I tell people or tell our clients is that we really want to see your leaders actively engaged with something like this and really encouraging that conversation by whether you're creating a, I don't know, a monthly wellness newsletter, utilizing some of the facts that we provide here to keep that conversation going, or utilizing the physical toolkit and the resources that are contained therein and putting up those resources in and around the office or around the job site. Whatever the case is, as long as you're keeping the conversation going and just making it an environment where people can feel as though they can speak freely and be honest with themselves, you're going to see more engagement with your own EAP and just more overall a morale boost across your organization.
You mentioned this is a fun question that's come in. You mentioned the buttons that you have.
Yes.
I think there's a unique way to introduce them to a team so that there's a comfort zone for it. Can anyone get access to those buttons, or the other tools that people can utilize in the workplace that create more of an interactive approach to mental well-being?
So in terms of the buttons, just speaking that is part of the program. However, if you do want some buttons, you can probably find me at the next Business After 5 event. I do have a couple that I can give away. But in terms of resources, we do have other free resources available on CMHA.ca. You could also look at Niagara.cmha.ca as well for resources as well. But specifically with Not Myself Today, this is a very it's a subscription-based program, but there are resources out there that we are offering in terms of programs and services. We also have workplace training available too. We also have psych health and safety certification, and that's going to be all accessed through our website at cmha.ca.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Normally, when I wrap up a webinar, I usually give it back like a minute at the end of it to our expert speaker for their insight or possibly saying something that you feel like I might have missed it, I might have not shared it. So Ryan, any final comments before we wrap up this webinar?
Yes, I have one last thing that I did want to share as something to take away for everyone here. Why does mental health matter? We all have mental health. And the statistic in Canada is that 1 in 5 Canadians will be diagnosed with mental illness at one point or another in their own life. But out of that statistic, all 5 in 5 of us have our mental health, just like we have our physical health. Therefore, mental health is everyone's business at the end of the day. And I thank everyone very much for joining me this afternoon.
Thank you so very much. And you're absolutely right with speaking about that we all have our mental health. And I think we all are committed and have to make a commitment to it, the same as we do to our overall well-being. So thank you so very much for your insights, for sharing this really amazing program with us. I really would love to see kind of get a sense of the uptick here in Niagara, and hopefully sometime down the road also we'll be able to share with everyone some of the success that companies have had in implementing it and making a difference to their colleagues.
I
I
agree.
also would like to thank the YMCA of Niagara for the partnership, enabling us to have these conversations, which are so critical at any time. And if any of you in attendance have any specific topics or speakers that you wished for us to consider for our Lunch and Learn series lineup for 2021, please feel free to contact us. You can receive all of our contact information on our website at gncc.ca, and we look forward to hearing from you. So thank you so very much for joining us today, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.